Before the affliction, my life was a carefully constructed lie. Now I'm the most infamous woman in Hollywood because I can only speak the absolute truth. My life, up until 3 weeks ago, was a masterclass in polite fiction. As Anna Thorne, C-list actress and professional audition bomber, my primary skill wasn't acting, it was pretending. Pretending to be thrilled about a one-line role as concerned shopper number 3. Pretending that a director's stale coffee breath didn't make me want to gag. Pretending I wasn't dying inside as another perky 19-year-old newcomer landed the role I'd spent a week preparing for. Then the affliction hit. It wasn't a cough or a fever. It was a strange, terrifying shift in my own mind. It started on a Tuesday during a live stream interview for some gossip blog. The host, with teeth too white to be real, leaned in conspiratorially. Anna, the whole world is talking about the wedding of the year. The new starlet, Lily Croft, and billionaire heir Marcus Vance. What are your thoughts on Hollywood's newest power couple? My brain did what it was trained to do. It formulated the perfect, safe, vanilla response. They look so happy. I wish them all the best. I opened my mouth to deliver the line, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, a strange current, hot and insistent, shot from the base of my skull to the tip of my tongue. The safe words dissolved, replaced by something else, something raw, something true. I fought it. I clamped my jaw shut, but the pressure built until it was physically painful. My manager, Diane, gave me a subtle, encouraging nod from behind the camera. Just say the line, Anna. Play the game. I couldn't. The truth forced its way out. Oh, them? The voice was mine, but it felt alien. They're doomed. It'll be over within the year, guaranteed. The air in the studio went still. The host's plastic smile flickered. That's a very bold prediction, Anna. Don't ask me why. If you want to know the real story, go ask the groom. See how he feels about joyfully raising another man's child. A collective gasp went through the studio crew. My manager, Diane, looked like she'd seen a ghost. Her face, usually a mask of professional calm, had gone as white as a sheet. I felt a wave of horror overwhelm me. What had I just done? That was only the beginning. Later that week, on the set of a low-budget period drama, things got worse. I was playing a lady-in-waiting, and the lead actor was a veteran named Gerald Vance, a man who'd been a big name sometime in the late 90s. He was now in his 50s, and for our scene, he had to lean in close, supposedly to whisper a secret. As his face drew nearer, a horrifying stench hit me, a mix of garlic, stale cigarettes, and something vaguely sour, like a forgotten gym bag. My stomach churned. He leaned closer, puckering his lips, clearly intending to plant a kiss on me, a creative choice that was definitely not in the script. The final inch was too much. My body revolted. I bent over right there on the faux marble floor of the set and started to retch. Dry heaves shook my entire frame, so violent that tears streamed from my eyes. "What is this?" the director boomed, his face turning a blotchy red. "What's the problem, Thorne?" Of course, he was annoyed. A nobody actress like me had no right to halt production. I tried to pull myself together, to invent an excuse. "I'm so sorry, I just felt suddenly unwell. Maybe a touch of food poisoning." But my mouth had other plans. "It's his breath, director," I gasped out between heaves. "It smells absolutely rancid. Ugh." Gerald's face, a moment ago filled with smug confidence, turned the color of thunderclouds.
I was mortified. I scrambled to my feet, bowing my head, preparing to apologize, to beg for forgiveness. But the apology died in my throat, replaced by a fresh wave of brutal honesty. What are you looking at? Are you that unaware of yourself? It smells like rotten black garlic. I clapped my hands over my mouth, my own words shocking me. Tears of pure regret welled up. Oh God, just take my mouth away, please. Just sew it shut. Anna, have you lost your mind? A sharp voice cut in. It was Jessica Vance, another struggling actress. She was always playing the part of the righteous warrior, especially when it meant scoring points with the crew. I didn't understand her. We were both at the bottom of the Hollywood food chain, yet she always seemed to find a way to undermine me. I wanted to ignore her, to just shrink away and disappear. But the curse latched onto my annoyance. You have the nerve to talk to me? My voice dripped with contempt. Yesterday, you were making fun of the cinematographer's bald spot, saying he had to wear a toupee. You told the script supervisor the director was illiterate, and you spent all lunch gossiping about how the lead actress has fake breasts. And let's not even talk about you and the director's nephew. The set went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. You're making that up, she shrieked, her face crumbling. Her eyes looked like she wanted to murder me. My own eyes were blurry with tears of helplessness. This stupid, cursed affliction. Unsurprisingly, both Jessica and I were kicked off the set. Diane's voice on the phone was a tight wire of controlled fury. They sent security to escort you out, Anna. Security for verbally assaulting a D-list has-been and a backstabbing wannabe. This is a new low, even for you. I was huddled on my couch, wrapped in a blanket of shame. I didn't mean to, Diane. It just came out.
A long, weary sigh crackled through the speaker. I know. Look, your reputation is radioactive right now. No one will touch you. But, she paused, and I could hear her clicking away on a keyboard. Out of a sense of professional obligation to your contract, I found you something. It's a live dating show. Heart Match Live. A dating show? My voice was a squeak. It's all I could get. It's trashy, it's desperate, and the pay is insulting, but it's a gig. Listen to me, Anna. Her voice dropped, taking on the tone of a general sending a lone soldier into a suicide mission. Smile, nod, be charming. Agree with everyone. Do not, under any circumstances, say what you are actually thinking. Can you do that? I can try, though we both knew it was a lie. The set of Heart Match Live was even worse than I imagined. It was a riot of hot pink and purple lighting, and the air was thick with the smell of cheap hairspray and desperation. The format was, to put it mildly, archaic. The 5 male contestants were introduced, and then they were given the floor to comment on the female contestants. I stood there in a line with 4 other hopeful women, feeling like a piece of meat on display at a very tacky butcher shop. And the men? They were a special kind of awful. A Mount Rushmore of unwarranted confidence. They weren't movie stars. They were a collection of barely employed personal trainers, crypto bros, and aspiring influencers. Yet they spoke with the authority of gods. One by one, they picked apart the other women. Then they got to me. The actress, Anna, one of them, a beefy guy named Jax, began, flexing his bicep for no reason, is obviously stunning. A classic 10. But you have to wonder if it's just a pretty vase with nothing inside, you know? The others nodded sagely. The host, a man with a Ken doll haircut and a blindingly white smile, turned to me. Well, Anna, a bit of harsh criticism there. What are your thoughts on our panel of eligible bachelors? This was it. The moment of truth. My heart began to pound. My palms grew slick with sweat. Be nice, Anna.
Say they're all wonderful. Thank them for their time. The words formed in my head, a perfect, polite script. But the affliction didn't care for my script. The familiar hot current surged through me, and I knew I had lost control. My mouth opened. "My thoughts?" I began, my voice dangerously calm. "All right, let's start with contestant number 1, Chad. I have to ask the producers, are you here to test the audience's pain tolerance? Looking at you is an exercise in a mental fortitude. You have the face of a pug that's been stung by a bee." Chad's grin vanished. The studio audience let out a nervous titter. Contestant number 2, River. You look like you're suffering from severe malnutrition, like a Shih Tzu that's lost its will to live. Does it take a lot of effort for you to, function? River paled, looking like he was about to faint. Contestant number 3, Jax. I turned to the bicep flexor. Who gave you the courage to be so narcissistic? Seriously, where were you when humanity was evolving? Your eyes haven't left the chests of any woman on this stage since the show began. If you love them so much, why don't you go get a pair of your own? What's the matter? Can't afford them, so you have to stare at ours? Jax's face turned a deep, furious red. Contestant number 4, Brendan. He was the condescending one who had called me a vase. You have the audacity to critique me, but why don't you use some of that critical energy on your own face first? We can see your pores from space. They look like craters on the moon. And is that dandruff on your shoulder? Don't you own a mirror? Does your phone not have a selfie camera? Should we all chip in to buy you one? I didn't stop. The words were flowing out of me, a torrent of brutal honesty. And finally, contestant number 5, Dante. He was the one trying to do a sexy deep voice. Were you just fished out of an oil slick? You are unbelievably greasy. And that voice, you think it's deep and sultry? It sounds like a zombie demanding brains. It's less come hither and more the end is nigh. The 5 men stood there, mouths agape, trembling slightly, looking like they were all having trouble breathing. My mind was screaming in horror, but my mouth felt relieved, cleansed. When it came time to the men to choose a woman for a date, it was no surprise that 4 other couples were formed, leaving me standing alone. I felt a surge of contempt for them, and before I could stop it, my mouth voiced the thought out loud with a dismissive tch sound. Honestly, look at your faces, I said to the 5 of them, my voice dripping with scorn. You looked like 5 toddlers who just had their favorite toy taken away. Is your masculinity that fragile? Please, you think I want to date any of you? I'd have a more stimulating and enjoyable time scrubbing a public toilet. At least that's an honest job. The 5 men looked like they were on the verge of a collective aneurysm. The live comment section on the screen behind the host was exploding. OMG, this girl is insane. Who does she think she is? So rude. Lol. She's not wrong about Jax, though. Hashtag craterface. This is the best reality TV I've seen in years. Go Anna. This isn't straight talk. It's just being a horrible person. My queen. She said what we were all thinking. Drag them.
I had a feeling my career, or what was left of it, was officially over. The next morning, the atmosphere in the shared contestant house was thick enough to cut with a knife. The 4 other couples moved around in hushed whispers, shooting me nervous glances as if I were a bomb that might detonate at any moment. I sat alone at the massive kitchen island, nursing a cup of coffee and wishing the floor would swallow me whole. That's when Tiffany, one of the other female contestants, and a master of passive aggression, decided to stir the pot. She glided over to Brendan, who was moodily stabbing at a fruit salad, and placed a delicate hand on his arm. Brendan, you have to be patient with Anna. She's a celebrity after all. Their egos are a little more fragile. We're just normal people, so we should be more understanding, right? It was the opening Brendan had been waiting for. He slammed his fork down. Understanding? That woman is a menace.
A star? She's a failure who had to come on a reality show with us normal people. And she has zero class. The things she said were disgusting. There isn't a shred of decency in her. I would rather live alone for the rest of my life than spend one more minute with a woman like that. Instantly, every camera in the room swiveled to face me. All eyes were on me. I could feel the immense pressure, a physical weight on my shoulders. I felt like a cornered animal. Stay quiet, Anna. Don't say a word. Let it go. But the curse thrilled in moments like these. It fed on confrontation. The familiar heat flooded my veins. Oh, honey, my voice cut through the silence, sharp and clear. All my internal pleading was useless. You're talking about decency, but you don't even know the first thing about being a person. Let me give you the lesson your parents clearly skipped. Brendan's face went from red to purple. You think you're a gentleman? A real man doesn't build himself up by tearing women down. You called me an empty vase before you'd even had a single conversation with me. You want to talk about decency? Let's talk about you trying to get the producer's number by lying about having a hot stock tip. That's not just indecent, it's pathetic. So before you go around throwing stones from your glass house, maybe you should take that advice you gave me and do some work on the train wreck that is your own personality. The room was utterly silent. Brendan looked like I had physically slapped him. He opened and closed his mouth a few times, but no sound came out. Finally, he let out a strangled gasp, threw his napkin down, and stormed out, screaming that he was done. Later, I heard he had given the producers an ultimatum. Either they find him a new partner or he walks. Since no one wanted to trade, he walked. I was sure I was next on the chopping block. I went back to my room and started quietly packing my suitcase, the crushing weight of failure settling over me. I remembered Diane's voice, her final warning. I blew it. I blew my very last chance. I sank onto the bed, burying my face in my hands. I was so angry, so helpless. I looked at my own reflection in the dark TV screen. Are you happy now? I whispered, my voice trembling with rage, speaking directly to the curse, to my own treacherous mouth. This is what you wanted, isn't it? To ruin everything? This is a hostile takeover of my own body. You're violating my privacy, speaking my every stray thought. Do you think I won't find a way to shut you up for good? I was spiraling, lost in my own desperate monologue, when a knock came at my door. I wiped my eyes and opened it to find the show's executive producer, a slick woman in a sharp pantsuit named Maria. Don't bother packing, she said, a strange, predatory smile on her face. You don't have to fire me, I said, my voice hoarse. Fire you? Anna, honey, are you kidding? You are the show. Brendan quitting was the best thing that could have happened. And that little, breakdown you just had there, she gestured to a tiny blinking red light on the smoke detector I had never noticed before. A live feed camera. My blood ran cold. They love you. The angry ones, the cheering ones, they can't stop watching you. She leaned against the doorframe and her smile widened. We're not firing you, Anna. In fact, we're doubling down. We're bringing in a special mystery guest tomorrow, just for you. The next day, I was sitting on a pristine white garden swing, feeling utterly miserable. The producers were setting up the arrival of the mystery guest, and I was the bait. My manager, Diane, had called me in a panic, her voice a frantic mix of terror and glee. The network loves you, Anna. You're a viral sensation. This is our chance. This new guy, whoever he is, you have to make it work. Be sweet, be charming. Even if you have to fake it, create a romance people can root for. For the love of God, manage your mouth. Manage my mouth. Right. An impossible task. I felt a familiar knot of dread tightening in my stomach. The curse was probably licking its lips in anticipation, waiting to sabotage this too. I was sure I was about to give the audience a full serving of arsenic instead of the sweet romance they wanted. As I was lost in my anxious thoughts, the swing suddenly lurched forward. Someone had pushed me from behind hard. Caught completely off guard, I yelped and tumbled off the seat, landing in a graceless heap on the perfectly manicured lawn.
Whoops! A voice from behind me, smooth and laced with amusement. "Are you all right?" I groaned, pushing myself up onto my elbows, my face burning with embarrassment. "What kind of lunatic sneaks up on someone like that?" I muttered, turning to glare at the culprit. And then I saw him. My retort died in my throat. He wasn't like the other guys on the show. He wasn't trying too hard. He was just effortlessly handsome. Tall, with dark, messy hair that fell over his eyes, and a lean build visible even under a simple white t-shirt. He looked young, maybe early 20s, and he had a small, amused smile playing on his lips. My brain, the traitor, immediately went into overdrive. Wow, he's gorgeous. A total dreamboat. And my mouth, the cursed accomplice, decided to share my findings with the world. "God, your waist. It's so lean. Looks incredibly strong." I finished the sentence and froze in pure, unadulterated horror. I immediately slapped both hands over my mouth, my eyes wide. The young man's smile widened. He tilted his head, his eyes a startlingly clear shade of hazel, twinkling with mischief. "Oh yeah?" he said, his voice a low, playful murmur. "Want to get a closer look?" My mind screamed, "No! Say no, you maniac!" But the curse was in full control, and it was apparently in a flirtatious mood. A closer look! My mouth betrayed me yet again. "You know, that doesn't sound like the worst idea I've ever heard." The mystery guest let out a soft laugh. He extended a hand to help me up. He said, "I'm Caleb." I took his hand, my own trembling slightly. "Anna." The live comment section, visible on a monitor near the house, went insane. "Oh my God, did she just say that? That was the smoothest save I've ever seen. Caleb is hot. This is the content I signed up for. Ship, ship, ship. Hashtag Anna Caleb. He wants you, sis. Don't fumble the bag." Caleb. So that was his name. This specimen was my new partner. Suddenly, I became aware of 4 pairs of eyes staring daggers at us from the patio. The other female contestants, including Tiffany, were watching, their sweet smiles from yesterday replaced with looks of undisguised envy and calculation. I felt a headache beginning to form behind my eyes. I had no desire to get into a catfight over a man, especially not one who could make my treacherous mouth say things like that. This was going to be a disaster. A beautiful, handsome, very well-waisted disaster. Caleb's arrival had shifted the entire dynamic of the house. He was like a shark dropped into a goldfish tank, and the other women were circling. I found myself in the awkward position of being his designated partner, which meant I was public enemy number 1. We were sitting on a poolside lounge chair, attempting something close to a normal conversation, when the first attack came. It was Tiffany, armed with 2 glasses of orange juice and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Caleb," she chirped, handing him a glass. "I squeezed this for you myself. My hands are so sore now, but I wanted you to have something fresh." She shot a pointed look at me. I gripped the armrest of my chair, my knuckles turning white. "Don't say it! Don't say it!" Caleb took the glass. "Oh, thanks, Tiffany. You didn't have to. Freshly squeezed." My voice, a weapon I couldn't control, sliced through the air. "Tiffany, the plastic bottle of store-brand orange juice is literally sitting at the top of the kitchen trash can. Did you sprain your delicate wrist twisting the cap?" Her smile froze and then shattered. She shot me a look of pure hatred before turning on her heel and storming away. Caleb looked from her retreating back to me, then down at his glass, a slow, amused grin spreading across his face. He took a deliberate sip. Then came Madison. She wandered over, phone in hand, feigning distress. "Caleb, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to bother you, but is there any chance I could borrow your charger? Mine's gone missing again." I didn't even have time to fight it. "That's the 3rd time you've lost your charger this week, Madison. Your pickup lines need a serious upgrade. Try again tomorrow." She flushed a deep crimson and scurried away without another word.
Caleb chuckled, shaking his head. You're really something, you know that. The main event came an hour later. Tiffany, having clearly regrouped, came back with a new strategy: backhanded compliments. You two look so cute together, she cooed, sitting on the chair opposite us. She focused her attention on me. Anna, your skin is just flawless. Your makeup is always perfect. I guess that's the advantage of being a professional actress, right? Not like me, she giggled. My mom always said, Tiffany, it's a good thing you're naturally pretty because you're hopeless at everything else.
She then leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. But I have to ask, your nose is so perfect. Did you get that done? No offense. I'm just curious because they say everyone in Hollywood gets a little work done. This was a declaration of war. I felt the curse rise up, not with reluctant heat this time, but with a roar. It was ready for battle. You're right about one thing, I said, my voice dangerously sweet. You are hopeless. Your makeup skills, for instance, need serious work. That foundation isn't just the wrong shade. It's oxidizing. You look like a traffic cone. Tiffany's jaw dropped. And you want to talk about getting work done? Honey, you can't even bring yourself to buy a decent quality concealer, let alone a nose job. You're not just broke, you're cheap and you're lazy. You're serving lukewarm, bottom-shelf iced tea while trying to convince everyone it's a premium artisanal beverage. It's embarrassing. Tears welled up in Tiffany's eyes. It was her signature move. She turned her tear-streaked face to Caleb, her voice trembling. Caleb, see how awful she is? She's so cruel and bitter. You'd be so much happier with a different partner. I'm just warning you. I held my breath, waiting for Caleb's reaction. He looked at Tiffany's crying face, then he looked at me. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he smiled, a slow, devastating smirk. Sorry, Tiffany. I think I might be allergic to fake people. It makes my skin crawl. Besides, my girl here is beautiful, and when you look like she does, you can say whatever the hell you want. Tiffany looked like he had slapped her. Without another word, she got up and fled. My heart did a strange little flip in my chest. My girl? He called me his girl. Caleb siding with me had two immediate effects. First, the other women now looked at me with a level of animosity usually reserved for mortal enemies. Second, the original male contestants, already sulking from being ignored, now despised Caleb with a fiery passion. Their fragile male egos had been shattered. I had achieved the impossible. I was now disliked by every single contestant in the house, except, it seemed, for the only one who mattered. That evening, the producers announced a group activity they called Fireside Truths. We all had to sit on cushions around a fake fire pit and answer questions from a truth bowl. My stomach plummeted. This was my personal nightmare, gift-wrapped. I tried to hide in a corner, hoping to become invisible, praying no one would pay attention to me. But of course, Tiffany, seeing her chance to expose me, immediately took charge. Oh, this will be so fun. I'll go first. My question is for Anna. She smiled sweetly. Anna, why did you decide to get into the entertainment industry? I knew this was a trap. The expected answer was something about the art or passion for storytelling, but the Kerrs had no time for such nonsense. For the money, I said bluntly. Everyone knows Hollywood is where the money is. Next. A nervous silence fell over the group. Tiffany pressed on. Okay, who is your biggest celebrity crush? Don't have one. My only crush is on my bank account. Someone snickered. The other contestants were starting to look intrigued. Who do you dislike most in the industry? Another girl asked, emboldened. Producers who try to pay you in exposure. Exposure doesn't pay my rent. The questions kept coming, getting more pointed. Then Tiffany delivered the kill shot.
Anna, you're very confident. So, who do you think is more beautiful? You or Olivia Reed? Olivia Reed, the biggest, most beloved A-list star in the country, a woman famous for her classic beauty and graceful charm. This was a landmine. My brain screamed, "Abort, abort!" Too late. Me. The word popped out of my mouth. The group gasped. Why? Tiffany asked, her eyes gleaming with victory. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the words came anyway. Because my chest is bigger and my butt is better. Are we done? I knew I was toast. You don't say that about Olivia Reed. I could already feel the tidal wave of hate mail and death threats from her legions of fans heading my way. The live comment section was probably a war zone. She did not just say that. The disrespect to Olivia Reed. Cancelled. LOM. Anna has no filter and I am here for it. Wow. Just wow. The ego on this C-lister?
My notoriety was about to reach a whole new level. The questions, thankfully, shifted away from me for a bit. But as the session was wrapping up, the host asked one last question. Anna, as a celebrity, how does it feel to participate in a dating show with us regular folks? I sighed. The curse took it as its cue. Life's a constant hustle. A job is a job. If I don't work, how will I make money? You work hard today so that tomorrow you can afford to hire 8 male models to follow you around. A few people laughed, but Caleb, who had been quiet next to me, leaned over. 8, he murmured, his voice a low rumble that sent a shiver down my spine. You change your mind fast. Already over me and on to male models? His teasing was light, but it made me feel cornered. The curse snapped back without thinking. Well, you could always be the 9th. The smile on Caleb's face vanished. He leaned in closer, so close his lips were almost touching my ear. His voice was barely a whisper, a secret just for me. Don't be so greedy, Anna, he breathed. You might not be able to handle it. It took my brain 3 full seconds to process what he'd implied. Heat exploded across my face, a blush so intense I was sure it was visible from space. Oh my God, I couldn't breathe. It was only then that I realized his hand was resting lightly on the small of my back. On pure instinct, I shoved him away. What do you think you're doing? I hissed, my voice scandalized whisper. You're just a kid. My waist is not public property. Caleb just blinked, the picture of innocence. Why not? He asked, his voice returning to a normal volume for everyone to hear. Aren't I your boyfriend now? Boyfriend my foot, I squeaked, scrambling to my feet. Go home, take a shower, and go to bed. I turned and fled, not wanting to spend another second in that circle of fire. As I hurried away, I heard Caleb's clear, laughing voice call out to the rest of the group. You guys keep chatting. I have to go take care of some domestic matters. I heard the words and stumbled, nearly falling flat on my face. That boy's mouth was even more dangerous than mine. Back in my room, I paced the floor like a caged animal. My cheeks were still burning from Caleb's whispered words and his outrageous public declaration. Domestic matters. The nerve of him. Part of me was mortified, another part was, admittedly, a little thrilled. I kept expecting a knock on the door, my heart doing a nervous jump every time I heard a footstep in the hall. I spent half the night rehearsing what I would say, a mix of indignant scolding and feigned indifference. But the knock never came. The next morning, an air of confusion hung over the house. Caleb was gone. His room was empty. Then at 10 a.m., we were all gathered in the living room by a frantic-looking Maria and a team of producers. Due to unforeseen production issues, Maria announced, her voice strained and her professional smile completely gone. Filming on Heart Match Live will cease immediately. All contestants will be sent home today.
We thank you for your participation. Chaos erupted. People were shouting questions, demanding explanations, but the producers were like a brick wall, just repeating boilerplate lines about contracts and circumstances beyond their control. Within 2 hours, I was in a taxi, my hastily packed suitcase in the trunk, heading back to my tiny apartment. Just like that, it was over. For 2 days, I stewed in a mix of confusion and anger. What the hell had happened? Then my phone rang. It was Diane. "Anna, are you sitting down?" she asked, her voice an octave higher than usual. "What is it, Diane?" I found out what happened. I pulled every string I had. The unforeseen production issue, it has a name. Caleb Sterling. Caleb, what about him? He's not just some handsome kid, Anna. He's the Caleb Sterling, as in the sole heir to Sterling Holdings, the real estate, tech, and media empire. Their family could buy the network that airs that stupid show with the money they find in their couch cushions. They found out their precious son was on a disgraceful reality dating show, and they brought the hammer down. They shut down the entire production. I was silent, trying to process the information. A super billionaire heir. Of course. It was the only explanation that made sense. The absurd, disgusting, awe-inspiring power of generational wealth. Damn capitalism. Just as I was absorbing this information, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Hey, Anna. Had to go take care of a small family problem. Don't miss me too much. I'll come find you in a couple of days." My eyes narrowed. A small family problem? He called shutting down an entire television production a small problem? Before I could even formulate an angry response, another text popped up. "P.S. Stop thinking about those 8 male models. I get jealous." That was it. I saw red. Jealous. Jealous my ass. I threw my phone onto the couch as if it were on fire. That little brat, he gets to play games and then have his family erase his mess, leaving me unemployed in the process? I swore to myself if that smug, handsome face dared to show up at my door, I would wipe that grin off it so thoroughly his own mother wouldn't recognize him. For 3 days, I stayed in my apartment, subsisting on takeout and simmering rage. I expected my 15 minutes of trashy reality TV fame to evaporate, but something strange was happening. I wasn't being forgotten. I was becoming a phenomenon. My name was trending on Twitter. There were YouTube compilations titled Anna Thorne's Most Savage Moments with millions of views. TikToks used audio of my roasts over videos of people confronting their horrible bosses. The internet was furiously debating whether I was a truth-telling icon or a toxic menace. I was infamous. And as I scrolled through thousands of comments calling me a monster, a bully, and a lunatic, I didn't feel hurt. I felt a strange, thrilling spark of excitement. Infamy, I realized, was just another kind of fame. In the chaotic jungle of Hollywood, the most dangerous thing isn't being hated, it's being ignored. For the first time in my career, people couldn't stop talking about me. I had a brand. A manic energy seized me. I threw on the first clean clothes I could find and stormed out of my apartment. 20 minutes later, I burst into Diane's office. She looked up, startled. "Anna, what are you doing here?" "I have an idea," I said, pacing in front of her desk. "I want you to get me on a roast show, one of those celebrity tell-all panels." Diane looked at me as if I had just suggested juggling chainsaws. "Absolutely not," she said flatly. "Anna, a roast is for comedians telling jokes. Your jokes get production shut down and make billionaires' sons disappear. You'll offend a network executive or a major star and get blacklisted forever. It's career suicide." "Diane, my career was already dead," I argued, my voice ringing with newfound conviction. "Playing it safe is for people who have something to lose. I have nothing. My only move is to lean into this. High risk, high reward. This curse is a weapon, and for the first time, I'm going to aim it myself." She stared at me, her expression a mixture of terror and grudging admiration. She saw the logic in my madness. With a deep, world-weary sigh, she picked up her phone. "I'll make some calls," she muttered. "God help us all." A week later, I was standing backstage at a show called The Unfiltered Truth. It was a panel show where has-been celebrities would air their dirty laundry and take potshots at each other. The other guests were a perfect collection of faded glory, a 90s sitcom dad, a pop star whose one hit was 20 years old, and a former action hero who now sold insurance. I, the no-name C-lister famous for a viral meltdown, fit right in. Before the live broadcast, a nervous-looking producer handed us each a script. "Here are your approved talking points in roast jokes for the other panelists," he said. I scanned my page. The jokes were painfully lame. "Mark, your fashion sense is as outdated as your sitcom's laugh track. Harmless, toothless, safe." I looked at the other panelists, all dutifully memorizing their lines. I almost felt sorry for them. A wicked smile touched my lips. "Oh, you poor, sweet summer children. You have no idea what's about to happen." The lights came up, the cheesy theme music played, the host introduced the panel. I was at the very end of the line, the least important person on the stage, the bottom of the food chain. Perfect. They wouldn't see me coming. It was time to let the beast out of its cage. The show began, and as predicted, it was painfully dull. The host lobbed a softball joke at the first panelist, Mark Prince, the sitcom dad from the 90s. "So, Mark," the host chuckled, reading from a cue card, "rumor has it you're a real family man, just like your character on TV. Is that right?" Mark chuckled. "You bet. My family's my world." The host turned to me. "Anna, anything to add?" A hush fell over the studio. I took the microphone from its stand. The cool metal felt like a scepter in my hand. This was my coronation. "A family man," I began, my voice clear and steady. "That's a creative way to put it. Mark, the tabloids always speculated that you were being financially supported by two wealthy older women. Tonight, I'd like to clear your name. That rumor is completely false." Mark smiled, looking relieved. "It wasn't two," I said, leaning into the mic. "It was 8. 8 different benefactors. I have to ask, how did you manage your schedule? Did you assign each one a day of the week with one left over for emergencies? People talk about time management, but you, sir, are the undisputed godfather of it. Looking at you now under all this makeup, I can see the exhaustion. Is it because you worked your body too hard in your youth? And is your career in a nail dive now because you can't find a knife? If I were you, I'd retire. Go home and spend some time with your actual wife. She's been waiting patiently for about 20 years. Mark Prince's face went from a pleasant tan to a pasty, sickly white. The audience was dead silent. I didn't pause. I turned to the next panelist, Vanessa Vance, the pop star who had one hit 20 years ago. "Vanessa, everyone knows you as a great philanthropist, always helping young, aspiring artists who are new to the industry. And you look amazing for your age. You swear by that experimental stem cell therapy, don't you?" "It's all about wellness," she said, trying to sound serene. "I think you should sue them," I said cheerfully, "for false advertising. Because if those treatments are supposed to make you look good on the outside, they're doing nothing for what's on the inside. You help young girls all right. You help them learn the harsh realities of Hollywood overnight. You introduce them to powerful mentors and teach them how to trade their souls for a chance at a record deal. I wonder, do you ever see their faces in your dreams? Probably not. You know what they say, eventually you wear your sins on your face. And darling, no amount of therapy can fix that."
Vanessa looked like she had swallowed poison. Her manicured hands were gripping her chair so hard her knuckles were white. Next, I swiveled to Rex, the Mauler Magnum, the aging action hero. "Rex, your whole image is the lone wolf, a solitary man who likes his privacy. But that's just a myth, isn't it? Your mansion isn't quiet. It's filled with friends, isn't it? Very young, very beautiful, female friends. Friends young enough to be your granddaughters. You're so close with these friends that you have slumber parties together. How wholesome. But tell me, while you're so busy mentoring these young women, how do you have time to physically assault your own security guards? Oh, you thought no one knew about that? Is it because they're big, strong men who can fight back, unlike the girls you invite over?
Rex's jaw was clenched so tight, I thought his teeth might crack. Finally, I turned to Isabel Croft, the classy actress known for playing America's favorite mom who had married a rich producer. "And Isabel, everyone says you're a wonderful stepmother." "I try my best," she said with a dignified smile. "Oh, you did more than that," I purred. "You were so dedicated to your stepdaughter's development. When she was in elementary school, you sent her to a strict boarding school to build character. When she got sick, you refused to take her to a doctor to strengthen her immune system. In high school, you actually paid other students to bully her and isolate her, to teach her resilience. And all while you kept your own biological daughter by your side, wrapped in cotton wool, a precious flower shielded from the world. What selfless dedication. You should launch a masterclass, How to Destroy a Child's Soul for Fun and Profit. I'm sure it would be a bestseller." When I finished, the silence in the studio was absolute. It was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. The host stood frozen, his mouth hanging open, and the faces of the panelists were a kaleidoscope of horror, a spectrum of colors from ghostly white and blotchy red to a sickly shade of green. I had single-handedly nuked the entire show, and it felt incredible. My performance had successfully detonated a bomb in the middle of a live television broadcast. In the aftermath, chaos reigned. The show's host looked like he needed medical attention. The producers were screaming into headsets, and my fellow panelists had scattered, some storming off stage with their agents in tow, others just sitting there, catatonic with shock. I had become a pariah in the space of 10 minutes. By the time I got back to my apartment, the digital firestorm was already a raging inferno. My name was the #1 trending topic worldwide. My social media DMs were a toxic waste dump of death threats and created insults. Gossip sites had already published scathing articles condemning my vicious, unsubstantiated, and desperate plea for attention. As predicted, the celebrities I had roasted launched a coordinated PR counterattack. Mark Prince released a tearful statement about how heartbroken he was that a troubled young woman will resort to such disgusting lies. Vanessa Vance's team announced she was taking a mental health break from the public eye after being so cruelly bullied. They played the victim card perfectly, and their fan bases, loyal and furious, mobilized against me. But internet had decided I was a monster. The next morning, I found my manager, Diane, having a full-blown meltdown. She screamed, pacing her office while juggling 2 calls at once. "They're going to sue us," she reeked. "The network, the panelist agents, probably the janitor who had to clean the stage. I told you this was a bad idea, Anna. This isn't high risk, high reward. This is a kamikaze mission where you blew up our plane before it even left the ground." I, on the other hand, was surprisingly calm. I sat on her leather couch, sipping a latte I dipped up on the way, scrolling through the deluge of hate on my phone with a serene smile. "Relax, Diane," I said coolly. "Have you seen the numbers? My follower count has tripled." She looked at me as if I was insane. "Followers don't pay legal fees." And then, just as Diane was about to have a complete nervous breakdown, the tide began to turn. It started with a single anonymous thread on a deep dive gossip forum. Someone posted flight manifests and hotel receipts that placed Mark Prince in the same luxury resorts as his benefactors. It was flimsy, but it was a crack in the dam. An hour later, a well-known music journalist posted a long article on his blog detailing stories he'd heard for years about Vanessa Vance's mentorship program, with anonymous quotes from 2 former proteges. Then TMZ, smelling blood in the water, somehow unearthed the sealed police report from when Rex Magnum's security guard pressed charges for assault, a story that had been quietly killed years ago. The final nail in the coffin came from Isabel Croft's stepdaughter. Now a 28-year-old architect living in another state, she released a short, dignified statement to a major news outlet. "Everything Miss Thorne said about my childhood was true. I thank her for her courage." The internet did a complete 180 degrees. The speed was dizzying. Hashtags like Anna's over party or replaced by Anna was right. The same people who had been sending me death threats were now calling me a hero. Diane stood frozen in the middle of her office, staring at her computer screen, her face pale with disbelief. She looked at me, her eyes wide with a new kind of awe. How, she whispered. How did you know this would happen?" I took a slow sip of my latte. The curse had thrown me into the fire, but it had also given me an incredible, terrifying clarity. People like that think their secrets are buried forever, but they're not buried. They're just waiting. The victims are waiting. The journalists are waiting. All they need is for one person to light a match. I didn't expose them. I just gave everyone else the courage to start digging. My reputation, once a toxic wasteland, had been bizarrely transformed.
I was no longer just the crazy actress with the vicious mouth. I was the crazy actress with the vicious mouth who was always, terrifyingly, right. My sudden, explosive fame had a strange effect on my career prospects. My manager Diane's phone was ringing off the hook, but the offers were polarized. Half of Hollywood was now utterly terrified of me, while the other half wanted to hire me specifically for my dangerous, unfiltered brand. I was a wild card, a public relations nightmare, and a ratings goldmine all at once. Amid the chaos of offers for reality shows and tell-all interviews, one legitimate opportunity emerged. It was for a dark, edgy new streaming series produced by a major studio. The role was a femme fatale, a beautiful and cunning villainess. The pay wasn't spectacular, but the part was juicy and complex. It felt like a real step forward. "This is it, Anna," Diane said, her voice filled with cautious optimism. "A real acting job. Just go in there, be brilliant, and please, for my sake, try to keep the curse on a leash." I arrived at the casting office full of hope, but my optimism began to fade when I saw the costume they wanted me to wear for the screen test. It was a ridiculously short, flimsy silk robe that barely closed, clearly designed to be more suggestive than stylish. My face hardened as I walked out of the dressing room, feeling exposed and deeply uncomfortable. Just then, the door to the waiting room opened, and a man with a greasy comb-over and a prominent gut entered. His eyes, small and piggy, immediately locked onto my chest, and a slimy smile spread across his face. "Anna Thorne," he said, extending a clammy hand. "I'm Mr. Wallace, the director of this little project. I thought I'd come down and run the scene with you personally." The way he said "personally" made my skin crawl. I ignored his hand. My brain formulated a polite refusal, a request to have a female casting assistant read with me instead. But the curse, my ever-present, furious guardian angel, had other ideas. It sensed a predator. "Run the scene with me?" My voice was dangerously quiet. "And what exactly makes you think you're worthy of that?" Mr. Wallace's sleazy smile faltered. He clearly wasn't used to being challenged. I turned to grab my coat, intending to leave the charade behind. He moved quickly, blocking my path. The friendly facade was gone, replaced with a cold, menacing look. "Let me make something clear," he hissed, his voice low and threatening. "This isn't a place you can just walk in and out of. You play ball, you get the part. It's a great part. But if you try to be difficult, well, I can make one phone call and ensure you never even get an audition for a dog food commercial in this town again." He leaned closer, his foul breath washing over me. "I've seen 100 girls like you, all pretending to be virtuous. You say no now, but you all come back, begging for a role. You're all the same, so be a good girl and cooperate." He reached a fleshy hand towards my arm. I didn't think. I reacted. My leg snapped up in a swift, brutal motion, my heel connecting squarely with the most vulnerable part of his anatomy. A strangled, high-pitched shriek echoed in the small room. As he doubled over, clutching himself and gasping for air, I calmly stepped around him, grabbed my coat, and walked out the door without a backward glance. As I strolled down the hallway, a cold fury settled over me. I wasn't afraid of the consequences. If I hadn't been afraid of getting arrested, I would have kicked him again. I was desperate for fame, for success, but not like this, never like this. There are lines you don't cross, and my soul was not for sale. Mr. Wallace didn't waste any time. Before I had even made it back to my apartment, he had launched a full-scale media assault. He gave an exclusive interview to a major industry magazine, painting himself as the victim of a volatile, delusional, and deeply unprofessional young actress. He claimed I had a breakdown and made inappropriate advances towards him, and when he politely rebuffed me, I became violent. Shortly after, the production company's official social media released a statement. "We stand by the integrity of our esteemed director, Mr. Wallace. After a deeply disturbing and unprofessional audition, we have decided to sever all ties with Miss Thorne. We do not tolerate this kind of behavior in our industry." Just like that, the narrative flipped again. The public,
always eager for fresh meat, pounced. The hero of the unfiltered truth was once again a villain. New hashtags started trending. Hashtag cancel Anna Thorne, hashtag Anna's attitude problem, and even a grimly ironic hashtag Hollywood's hidden rules, which was now being used to imply I was the one breaking them. "You kicked him in the groin, Anna?" Diane shrieked over the phone. She sounded like she was on the verge of tears. "You can't just assault every predator in Hollywood and expect to have a career." "Maybe that's exactly the kind of career I want," I said calmly, watching the torrent of online hate roll in. It didn't bother me this time. I was prepared. "You're done for, Anna. This time, it's for real." "Wait for it," I said and hung up.
While the internet was busy crucifying me, I made a single phone call to an aggressive gossip blogger I knew owed me a favor. I sent her a single audio file. An hour later, her site published the full, unedited recording of my audition with Mr. Wallace. His slimy propositions, his threats, his condescending monologue, it was all there, clear as day. That was the first domino. The second fell right after. It turned out my instincts about Wallace had been screaming so loudly that before the audition, I'd asked a friend who was a private investigator to do a quick background check. He'd found a pattern. 3 other young actresses had made similar accusations against Wallace in the past 5 years. All 3 cases had been quietly settled out of court with ironclad NDAs. I leaked that information too. The internet went into a frenzy. Hashtag #MeToo activists rallied behind me. Emboldened by my actions, one of the 3 actresses broke her NDA and told her story publicly. Then, during a spontaneous Instagram live I decided to host from my living room, the curse delivered the finishing blow. "And you should know," my mouth said with a chilling certainty, "it isn't just Wallace. The entire production company is rotten to the core. Ask them about their fraudulent tax shelters in the Cayman Islands. Ask them how they're hiding millions from the IRS." The next day, the IRS announced a formal investigation into the production company's finances. Mr. Wallace was arrested not just for his encounter with me, but on multiple charges of extortion and assault. The entire production was shut down indefinitely. The public's whiplash was extreme. Holy crap, she didn't just cancel a guy, she took down a whole studio. Okay, Anna Thorne's mouth is officially a registered lethal weapon. I'm not gonna lie, I was hating on her yesterday. I'm sorry, Queen, forgive me. She may be terrifying, but she never, ever lies. I'm officially a stan. By taking down a predator and a corrupt studio, my fame skyrocketed to a new level. I wasn't just a meme anymore. I was a symbol, a hero. But my career came to a screeching halt. "You're a hero, Anna," Diane told me a week later, her voice filled with despair. "You're also radioactive. No one in this town will risk hiring a walking, talking truth bomb who might accidentally expose their crimes on a lunch break. You're more famous than ever, and you are completely, utterly unemployable." My new status as Hollywood's righteous pariah meant I was famous, respected, feared, and completely broke. The offers weren't rolling in. My landlord, however, didn't accept moral victories as payment for rent. I was beginning to get desperate. That's when Diane called with the strangest proposition I'd ever heard. "Okay, don't hang up," she began, her voice tense. "I have an offer. It's for tonight, a business dinner. All you have to do is show up, sit there, look pretty, and not talk unless you're spoken to." "What's the catch, Diane?" "There's no catch. Some super rich executive is trying to close a deal and he likes to have a celebrity at the table to show his clients how connected he is. You're just scenery." "And the pay for being scenery?" I asked, skeptical. Diane took a deep breath. $20,000 for one meal. I choked on my own saliva. $20,000 to just sit there? That sounds like a down payment for human trafficking, Diane. "I swear on my career it's legitimate. It's just dinner, no funny business. The client is a bit eccentric, that's all." $20,000. That would cover my rent for almost a year. My principles were strong, but my bank account was weak. "Fine," I sighed, "but if a guy in a trench coat tries to put me in a van, I'm holding you personally responsible."
I decided the person paying this much for a dinner date must have more money than sense. At 7 p.m., my doorbell rang. I opened it expecting a stoic limo driver. Instead, leaning against my doorframe as if he owned the building, was Caleb Sterling. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored dark suit, looking impossibly handsome and infuriatingly smug. My heart dropped into my stomach. I immediately tried to slam the door in his face, but he was too quick, blocking it with his expensive leather shoe. "Nope," I said, pushing against the door. "Deal's off. Find someone else." He chided, with a playful glint in his eye. "We have a contract, Anna. Backing out now would be a breach. You wouldn't want that on your record, would you?" "You can take your contract and shove it," I snarled. He smiled, a slow, lazy curve of his lips. "I don't have a sister to shove it to, but I do have you." He leaned in. "Look, if the price is the issue, I can make it better. How about we multiply it by 10? I stopped pushing. 10 times? That was $200,000 for one dinner. My resolution crumbled into dust.
The curse, ever the opportunist, took over my mouth. "Then wire the money to my account, right now." Caleb didn't even blink. He just pulled out his phone, tapped the screen a few times, and said, "Done." My own phone buzzed. I glanced down, opened my banking app, and stared at the number that had just appeared. My balance had 6 new digits in it. I felt lightheaded. I walked out of my apartment and got into his sleek, black car like I was in a dream. The entire ride, I just stared at my phone screen, watching the number, a goofy, uncontrollable grin spreading across my face. "What are you smiling at?" Caleb asked, his voice laced with amusement. I couldn't help it. My head was spinning. 7 figures. My mouth breathed out reverently. I've never seen a number that big in my entire life. I'm rich. Huh! I'm rich. My response was undignified, money-grubbing, and completely devoid of class. I didn't care. Caleb chuckled. "So you're all about the money. Good. That makes things simple." "Simple how?" I asked, finally looking up from my phone. "It makes it simple to do things that make you happy," he said. "So, what else makes you happy, besides a fat bank account?" "Being famous," I said instantly. "Being super rich, and maybe having some male models." Caleb's face faded slightly. His expression turned placid, but his eyes held a sudden, intense chill. "That's fine," he said, his voice soft and even. "You go ahead and find your models. You find one, I'll deal with him. You find another, I'll deal with him too. I'll keep doing it until you don't feel like looking anymore." A shiver went down my spine that had nothing to do with the car's air conditioning. "Deal with them how?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He turned to me, his face breaking into a beautiful, terrifying smile. "Just a little family problem, Anna." I stared at him, my blood running cold. This wasn't a charming rich kid. This was a certified madman. We arrived at a private room in an obscenely expensive restaurant. The air was thick with the smell of cigar smoke and smug entitlement. Several older men in expensive, ill-fitting suits were already there, laughing loudly. The moment we entered, all conversation stopped. A man with a florid face and a loud tie, clearly the leader, stood up and greeted Caleb. "Caleb, my boy, glad you could make it." His eyes then slid over to me, and his gaze turned oily and appraising. It was a look that made me want to take a shower. "Well, well," the man who introduced himself as Mr. Harrison boomed to the others. "I see Caleb brought the evening's entertainment, a beautiful sight for sore eyes." The other men chuckled, their leering gazes washing over me. I felt the familiar hot surge of the curse building in my chest. My polite, silent scenery role was about to be canceled. "Entertainment?"
My voice cut through their laughter, cold and sharp as glass. The only thing entertaining here is how you all managed to look so rich and so cheap at the very same time. The laughter died, instantly. The men stared at me, their smiles frozen. Have none of you seen a woman before, or do you just forget how to act like decent human beings around one? If you can't control your eyes, I suggest you point them at your dinner plates, before I'm tempted to offer one of you a steak knife to solve the problem permanently. Mr. Harrison's face darkened with rage. He turned to Caleb, adopting a patronizing tone. Caleb, where did you find this one? She's got quite the mouth on her. You have to be careful with these pretty types. They're all schemes and ambition. They need to be taught a lesson. Taught a lesson? I let out a laugh devoid of all humor. You want to talk about who needs to be taught a lesson, Mr. Harrison? You who let your own mother, the woman who raised you in poverty, die alone after you married into money. You who took your wife's family fortune to build your company, only to cheat on her with your assistant for the last 5 years? Even I was shocked by the specificity of the curse's knowledge. Mr. Harrison looked like he'd been struck by lightning. You are a disgrace, my voice continued, relentless and brutal, an ungrateful, faithless leech, and you have the audacity to talk about business. Your company is an empty shell. You've bled it dry to fund your pathetic second life and pay for the apartment where your mistress is raising your secret child. You're not looking for a business partner, Caleb. He's looking for a fool with a fat wallet to bail out his sinking ship so he can keep playing the big shot. An animalistic roar of fury escaped Mr. Harrison's throat. You bitch, he screamed, and his hand flew up, ready to strike my face. Faster than I could blink, Caleb moved. He yanked me behind him with one arm, while his other leg shot out in a vicious, perfectly aimed kick that sent Mr. Harrison sprawling backward into a serving trolley with a deafening crash of silver and glass. Harrison lay on the floor, groaning in pain, looking up at Caleb with confusion and terror. Caleb looked down at him, his handsome face a mask of cold fury. Your girl says you're a piece of trash, and my girl is never wrong. I don't do business with trash. The deal is dead. Caleb, please. He wheezed from the floor. She's lying. She never lies, he said dismissively. Then he turned to me, the fury in his eyes instantly melting away, replaced by a soft concern that was almost more terrifying. Are you okay? I was still reeling, my heart hammering. I pushed his arm away. Excuse me, who are you calling your girl? Caleb had the audacity to look sheepish. Right. Sorry, my mistake, he said, a playful spark returning to his eyes. What I meant to say was, my esteemed and highly effective business consultant.
I stood up from the table, my appetite completely gone. Well, this has been dreadful, I announced to Caleb, who was watching me with an unreadable expression. I'm leaving. I made sure to look directly at him. And for the record, this doesn't count as a breach of contract. The job description was dinner, not verbal combat with degenerates. Your choice of dining companions is the problem, not my performance. Caleb actually laughed, a real, genuine laugh. No argument here, not a breach. He got up and followed me out of the ruined private room, leaving the mess of broken glass and shattered eagles behind. So, he said as we walked into the cool night air, since that dinner was a bust, want to get some actual food? I'm starving. I was about to refuse, to tell him to drop me home so I could count my money in peace. But just then, my stomach, betraying me as thoroughly as my mouth ever had, let out a loud, pathetic growl. And of course, the curse seized the opportunity. I'll go with you, my mouth declared. But only if we go to an all-you-can-eat seafood buffet. I'm suddenly craving lobster. Caleb's smile was dazzling. See, we're perfectly in sync. I was just thinking about seafood. In your dreams, I grumbled,
But I followed him to the car, a reluctant smile tugging at my own lips. And so, we ended our bizarre evening happily devouring mountains of crab legs and shrimp, the $200,000 fee feeling like the most ludicrously wonderful thing that had ever happened to me. Weeks passed. The story of the disastrous business dinner became another legendary chapter in the Thorne saga, but it didn't translate into job offers. I was still too much of a risk. But just as my savings started to dwindle, a call came from Diane. It was a real director, a visionary artist named Miles Kent, known for his daring fantasy epics. He wanted me for his new film. My first day on set was a whirlwind. We were filming a huge battle scene, and the male lead, a hot young actor named Leo, was performing an archery stunt. He drew his bow, his expression fierce, and let an imaginary arrow fly towards a green screen. "And he hits the eagle right in the eye," the director yelled. The extras and crew burst into applause. One of the other supporting actresses, a young woman starstruck by Leo, turned to me with wide, adoring eyes. "Isn't he amazing? Such a young hero." I tried to just nod. I really did. But the curse found the fawning praise unbearable. My voice cut through the air with deadpan clarity. "Amazing how? He's shooting at nothing. There is no eagle. It's a guy on a computer who's gonna do that part. Leo is just pointing a stick." The air went out of the scene. The adoring actress stared at me, horrified. Leo, who had been looking proud, now just looked awkward. The magic was broken. I braced myself for the director's fury, but Miles Kent just stared at me for a long moment, then slowly started to chuckle. He walked over to me. "Okay, Thorne, new character direction. From this moment on, you're mute. You took a vow of silence years ago. It's more mysterious anyway. Don't say another word on camera." He patted my shoulder. "Brilliant. Now back to one, everyone." I was stunned. The man was a genius. He had weaponized my curse for the good of his movie. My relief, however, was short-lived. A much larger problem was brewing. As I sat in my cast chair, I glanced at the call sheet for the day, and my blood ran cold. There, listed as the female lead and my character's sworn love rival, was a name that made my stomach clench in terror. Olivia Reed. My mind flashed back to the dating show. To me, on live television, telling the world, "I'm prettier than Olivia Reed, my chest is bigger, and my butt is better." Of all the film sets in all the towns in all the world, I had to walk onto hers. This wasn't going to be a movie, it was going to be a war. For the first 3 days of filming, I managed to avoid Olivia Reed. It was a cowardly but effective strategy. I hid behind large pieces of scenery, took my lunch breaks in my trailer, and generally made myself as scarce as possible. I knew a confrontation was inevitable, but I was determined to delay it. On the 4th day, my luck ran out. I was grabbing a coffee from the craft services table when a calm, clear voice spoke from behind me. "Anna Thorne, I've been wanting to meet you." I froze, my back still to her. I squeezed my eyes shut, took a deep breath, and turned around to face the A-list superstar I had so crudely insulted on live television. Olivia Reed was, if possible, even more stunning in person. She wasn't smiling, just watching me with intelligent, curious eyes. "Oh, Olivia," I managed, my voice a dry croak. "Hi." "So, let's get right to it," she said, her tone direct but not unkind. "Is it true, the can't tell a lie thing, or is it just the best marketing gimmick I've seen in years?" I gave a bitter laugh. The curse stirred, eager to plead its own case. Believe me, if I could turn it off, I would. I'd have to be a complete lunatic to willingly sign up for this kind of chaos. It's a nightmare. My sincerity was absolute, and Olivia seemed to sense it. A small, playful smile touched her lips. "All right then, let's test it." She leaned against the table, crossing her arms. The question that broke the internet: who's more beautiful, you or me? My entire body tensed. I gritted my teeth, trying to fight it, but it was no use. The curse clawed its way out of my throat, raw and unfiltered. Me, I bit out. Olivia raised her perfectly sculpted eyebrow, intrigued. Oh yeah? Why's that? Because the curse forced the words out. My chest is bigger and my butt is rounder. I braced for the slap, the outrage, the call to her agent to have me fired. Instead, Olivia Reed threw her head back and let out a loud, delighted peal of laughter. She looked me up and down, not with judgment, but with the cool, appraising eye of a connoisseur. You know what? She said, her eyes sparkling with amusement. You're not wrong. The girl got confidence and the assets to back it up. I respect that.
I was so stunned I couldn't speak. My brain had completely short-circuited. This was not how I had envisioned this encounter. Seeing my shocked expression, Olivia laughed again. You are a little maniac, aren't you? I think I like you, Anna Thorne. And just like that, through the most bizarre and humiliating interaction of my life, I made my first real friend in Hollywood. Our newfound friendship, however, didn't stop the paparazzi from trying to stir up trouble. Photos of us on set were carefully cropped and framed to look like we were arguing. The headlines were salacious. Tension on set. Anna Thorne's feud with Olivia Reed explodes. Olivia's massive, fiercely loyal fan base, who called themselves the Resistance, immediately went on the attack, flooding my social media with venom. But before the fire could truly catch, Olivia extinguished it with a single post. She uploaded a smiling selfie of the two of us, her arm thrown around my shoulder. The caption read, "Hanging with my new favorite co-star at Anna Thorne. She's brutally honest and I'm obsessed. The media needs to chill. Deal with it." Just like that, the online mob fell silent. Her power was astounding. Later that week, she found me staring off into space between takes. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked, handing me a bottle of water. I sighed, and the truth tumbled out before I could stop it. "I was just wondering when I'll ever be as powerful as you." Olivia smiled, a genuine, warm smile this time. "Sooner than you think, kid," she said, patting my arm. "Sooner than you think." Filming with Olivia and the brilliant, eccentric Miles Kent was surprisingly normal. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I was just an actress doing a job. My character being mute was a stroke of genius. I could focus on my physical performance without the constant fear of my mouth betraying me. I was starting to feel a flicker of hope that I might actually have a future in this business. Naturally, that was the moment Caleb Sterling chose to reappear. He didn't just show up. He made an entrance. A sleek, impossibly expensive sports car, the kind that costs more than my apartment building, purred to a stop right beside the set. The entire cast and crew stopped what they were doing to stare. When Caleb stepped out, looking like a prince visiting the peasant village, the whispers started immediately. I could hear them from 50 feet away. That's him, the Sterling heir. Wait, he's here for Anna Thorne? I knew it. She's being kept by him." My face burned with the new kind of humiliation. I had worked so hard to gain a sliver of professional respect, and in 5 seconds, he had reduced me to a cliché, the C-list actress with a rich boyfriend. I was still in my costume, a leather tunic splattered with fake mud and blood from a battle scene, and all I wanted to do was go home, not deal with this public spectacle. The late autumn wind whipped around the set, cold and biting. I ignored him, pulling my thin coat tighter and marching towards the parking lot with my head held high, determined to maintain what little dignity I had left. "Anna!" Caleb's voice, full of laughter, called out from his open car window. "Aren't you cold?" I ignored him, puffing out my chest and quickening my pace. I would not give him the satisfaction.
But the wind was relentless, slicing right through my costume. My teeth started to chatter. My body began to shake uncontrollably. And my treacherous mouth, as always, chose honesty over pride. "Damn it, it's freezing out here!" I yelled to no one in particular, my voice carried away by the wind. I bit my lip in frustration. My own mouth had no backbone. I heard a car door click shut. A moment later, Caleb was walking towards me, a ridiculously handsome silhouette against the setting sun. He had a small, teasing smile on his face. "You're being silly, you know it?" he said gently. "You're the one who's silly," I snapped, hugging myself for warmth. "Showing up here like this and that spaceship. What were you thinking?" He didn't get angry. He just stopped in front of me, his smile softening. "I was thinking that my car is very warm and that I have a thermos of hot chocolate and a bag of warm, fresh from the bakery cinnamon rolls waiting for you in the passenger seat." I stopped shivering. My angry retort died in my throat. Hot chocolate, cinnamon rolls. That was playing dirty. He saw my hesitation and pressed his advantage. "Look, who are you punishing by standing out here in the freezing cold? Me? I'm fine. You're only making yourself miserable."
I stared at him, then at the impossibly warm-looking car, then back at him. He had a point, a very warm, very logical, cinnamon rolls-scented point. "Fine," I grumbled, my pride finally admitting defeat. "Let's go." As he unlocked the door from me, the corner of his mouth twitched up in a victorious smirk. I chose to ignore it. The inside of Caleb's car was a sanctuary of warmth and delicious smells. I took a large gulp of the rich hot chocolate, the warmth spreading through my chilled body. It was heavenly. As I savored the drink, Caleb broke off a warm, gooey piece of a cinnamon roll and held it out towards me. I hesitated for a moment, feeling a strange sense of intimacy that felt both foreign and comfortable. Then I leaned forward and took the bite. It was perfect. A comfortable silence fell between us as I sipped my chocolate, and he continued to break off small pieces of the roll and feed them to me. After the chaos of the last few weeks, the simple, quiet moment felt surreal. I let my guard down, content to just enjoy the warmth and the unexpected treat. After a few minutes, I realized he had stopped eating himself. He was just watching me, his elbow propped on the center console, his chin resting in his hand. His gaze was fixed, intense, and focused entirely on my mouth. "What are you looking at?" I asked, feeling a blush creep up my neck. "You," he answered, simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "Is the cinnamon roll good?" "It's good," I mumbled, suddenly feeling self-conscious. He leaned in a little closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial murmur. "So, you've made a decent chunk of money lately, right? All that dinner money plus your movie salary." "It's okay," I said, unsure where this was going. "Have you ever thought about becoming a sugar mama?" I choked, sputtering a mouthful of hot chocolate all over my hand. Caleb immediately grabbed a napkin and began dabbing at my hand, his touch surprisingly gentle, all while continuing his insane line of questioning. "I'm serious," he said, a playful glint in his eyes. "Think of me as an investment. The annual fee is negotiable. We can talk about multi-year contracts for a discount. But the real value is in the lifetime plan. That's a steal. Premium quality, exclusive access, satisfaction guaranteed." I stared at him, dumbfounded, my mind struggling to catch up. There was only one logical explanation for this level of madness. "Did your family go bankrupt?" I asked, my voice a worried whisper. "Did they finally cut you off for being a reckless playboy?" Caleb laughed, a deep, rich sound. "Anna, my family couldn't go bankrupt in the next 100 years even if they tried. This is a much better deal than that."
He took my hand, the one he had just cleaned, and held it in his. So, not even a little bit tempted. My mind was a screaming chorus of no. This is insane. He's a lunatic. I tried to pull my hand back, to say something witty and dismissive, but the curse had been listening, and it was, apparently, very tempted indeed. Okay, maybe a little.